Well, hello from Chicago, where it's been an exceptionally busy morning with Ireland and New Zealand both naming their teams for Saturday's sold-out clash at Soldier Field, and it's all feeling very, very real and very, very close now. Ireland, well, Andy Farrell's got a couple of surprises up his sleeve, it turns out. Stuart McCluskey, the most notable, starting at number 12. Jack Crowley, as we thought was going to happen, getting the nod at out half, and a debut for Paddy McCarthy off the bench. New Zealand, well, Bowden Barrett's back for them. Caleb Clark named on the wing, and Ethan de Groot, the powerhouse prop, gets the nod at number 1. I was at the Ireland press conference. Cian, Tracey here was at the All Blacks press conference. Cian, it does feel like with the teams named, it's feeling like a much more real proposition now on Saturday.
Yeah, and the walk from our hotel where we're staying down to the All Blacks team hotel is about 45 minutes, and the amount of green jerseys that I spotted on the way. I mean, the Irish invasion has already started, hasn't it? We're obviously on the riverfront here. People will be able to see. I saw plenty of green hats going by as well. It was something that Scott Robertson referred to just in the press conference that I just came for, that it's not going to be the Aviva Stadium this weekend, but it's going to be pretty close. And that's definitely the sense that you're getting as well. We had kind of heard all week that the Irish were going to start arriving from Wednesday. Obviously, we've been here a few days earlier. And sometimes in these big cities, especially like an American city like this, where rugby is clearly not the preference, but I'm starting to get a sense of a big game feel around here as well, which will be brilliant. And I think that's something that the All Blacks are going to have to match as well, because they could be outnumbered in terms of supporters and fans 6-1 possibly, you'd be thinking.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting. I do know a lot of tickets were sold in the Illinois area, so there is a degree of local interest. There's obviously a fairly large Irish presence here in the first place. A lot of Irish people living in Chicago, but yeah, it's been really noticeable having working in a coffee shop there. Actually, all the Ulster contingent in the Ireland squad came in, including Stuart McCluskey, who is the man of the hour, but there was a lot of Irish fans coming and going. That sense that they're kind of here to take over the city for a couple of days is arriving. And without the kind of this time last time in 2016, the Chicago Cubs fans were everywhere because they just won the World Series. I think the green will be more noticeable over the next couple of days. Like, Cian, you had a good read on the team, but Andy Farrell did manage to keep the Stuart McCluskey news under wraps. A form selection, in my view. He's played very well for Ulster this season, but it's rare that when Bundy Aki, Robbie Henshaw and Gary Ringrose are all fit, that one of those three misses out. It's a big selection call by Andy Farrell.
Yeah, I don't know, has it ever happened? I know Stuart McCluskey's won, I think it's 22 caps, but I can't remember a time when certainly Bundy Aki and Robbie Henshaw were both fit and available that he was selected. They did very well to keep it under wraps, I have to say. It's an exciting call. I mean, he's 33 years old. He's been around for a long time. I think back to his debut at Twickenham, wasn't it, under Joe Schmidt, and throwing a couple of loose offloads, and Schmidt then didn't really kind of fancy him after that. But he's been a stalwart of Ulster rugby for, how long we're talking, 10 years. One of their most consistent players through the tough times that Ulster have had over the last couple of years as well, particularly when Ian Henderson has been out injured for large chunks. Stuart McCluskey has been the one who's been so consistent and driving the standard. So it's a well-deserved opportunity. Like you said, he's played well this season. Bundy Aki went off injured in his only game against Connacht, and Robbie Henshaw still trying to get back up to speed after that injury that he had over the summer. So people want Andy Farrell to pick on form. It's a very exciting selection, and certainly one that I didn't see coming, but I'm enthused by it.
It's hard to get a line on form because there's been so few games, especially for the Lions. But I think he's gone with form largely. I mean, the Leinster players in the tight five, plus Ty Byrne, who was outstanding at Croke Park, they dominated the scrum battle against Munster in that game. So, I mean, they're Lions anyway. You weren't expecting them really. They're all like, that was the front row he was always going to pick. James Ryan and Ty Byrne. That's a second row that I was expecting coming over. Although I did hear that Ian Henderson was right in the mix for selection there. He's gone for Ryan Baird, who hasn't started the season brilliantly, but did finish last season superbly well, and I think has probably earned the right to have first dibs on that for number 6 jersey, albeit he's going to face stiff competition from Keane Prendergast and Thomas Ahern as the season goes on. He's got to play well on Saturday, a huge opportunity for him. And I think Jack Conan is the percentage call at number 8 over Caelan Doris, who hasn't played since May, because Conan, it's not that long ago that he was starring and playing 3 tests for the Lions, and it's probably going to be easier for him to get up to speed. Were you surprised when the word came through last night that Doris was going to be on the bench, or did you think that was the right call?
We've spent a lot of time talking about Doris. Should they start him? Should they not? Personally, I just didn't think it was worth the considerable risk that it was. And we talked about how if he was starting, that the Irish medical team wouldn't have put in if he wasn't fully ready. And I don't think it's that necessary. I think they do think he is ready, but you're so right. Jack Conan is a 6-time test line. I mean, it's easy to kind of forget. He's had such a brilliant career, but he hasn't always been first choice for Ireland. He was brilliant on the Lions tour again, so it makes sense. I know he hasn't played this season yet, but it makes sense to play him and then give Caelan Dars 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is, off the bench, because it's a pretty stacked bench, which I know we'll get on to talk to. It's a very strong Ireland bench, I think, full of punch and impact. But to go back to Ryan Baird, like, this is, like, stating the obvious, but a massive, massive opportunity for him. I think you're right to mention the other potential contenders. Like, you could see Jack Conan maybe playing 6 as well. You could see Caelan Dars. I've never been a huge fan of that particular back row in terms of the balance, and it has often seemed a little off. But Baird was exceptional for Leinster last season. I think the improvements that he's made, particularly around his line-out game, he worked really closely with Paul O'Connell last year. He went on the summer tour. I know it was low-key, but he was one of the senior men on that summer tour in Georgia and Portugal, and he was very, very good, particularly in Tbilisi when it was a dirty night. And I think Ireland will look at this All Blacks line-out without Patrick Tuipulotu, without Tupou Vai, as a potential maybe to get the upper hand. Now, like I said, I just came from the All Blacks press conference, and Fabian Holland walked through the reception, and my God, he is a big unit. And I actually probably hadn't realised how tall he is. I think he's 6'8", 6'9".
6'8", yeah.
Yeah, he is
203 cm.
He's a big man. He's a big man. But I look at the back, Artie Savea, obviously a good line-out option as well. Simon Parker isn't the biggest man either. And I think Baird going up against Parker, particularly in the line-out, could be an edge that Ireland might have.
Yeah, Parker's more of a power forward, isn't he? He's 120 kgs. Holland's just a really interesting, quirky story. He's come from the Netherlands at the age of 16. He grew up playing rugby in the Netherlands, wanted to be an All Black, so he basically transferred schools to Christchurch High School at the age of 16 to pursue his dream. It was actually a performance at Thomond Park for the All Blacks 15 last year to propel them onto the All Black stage. He's won 9 caps this season, and it's just an unusual, different story for him to come in. But he looks the part.
A Dutchman with a second name Holland as well.
Yeah,
you can't make it up. It's brilliant.
Yeah, he's some size of a player, and he's less experienced, but he will bring a real athleticism to that All Blacks pack. Behind the scrum, like you mentioned the summer tour, and you were there. He has gone with Jack Crowley, who played the last game of the summer tour. Tommy O'Brien, I know there's injuries there, but he came in the summer tour, did well. We wondered about the relevance of it. McCluskey played in the summer tour. Baird played in the summer tour. And we see Craig Casey, who captained them, he's on the bench. And I think maybe he would have been in the mix for a start had injury not intervened at the start of the season, because he started so well over in Clonettley. So I know Paddy McCarthy didn't play in the summer tour. He was there, and that was a big building block. And Andy Farrell talked today about he would have used that as grist to the mill. Obviously, he got the opportunity to be around it, and that kind of lit a flame underneath him to come back this season and perform. So it does seem like there's a bit more joined up thinking than we gave it credit for with that summer tour. Also with the Lions, who were away with Andy Farrell, bringing that all back together now. And they are pivoting towards 2027. So it does seem like maybe there's, I mean, we always, there is always going to be some strategy behind it, but it does seem, you can see the kind of the relevance of it in that selection.
And I think there were plenty of eyebrows raised when Stuart McCluskey was picked on the summer tour, purely because it was quite clearly a development tour. And look, you know what you're going to get with Stuart McCluskey. But again, a bit like Ryan Baird, he was one of the key leaders there. He was definitely the oldest member of the squad. But I think they're all kind of a case-by-case basis. I don't necessarily think, like Jack Crowley, what he did in that Portugal game, because remember, he didn't start against Georgia. I don't know if it has a huge amount of relevance there. His big thing, like you mentioned, Rod, is how well he started the season for Munster. Stuart McCluskey's the exact same. He's carried his form from the summer into playing really well for Ulster as well. Like, he went off injured in Ulster's last game over in South Africa. So he's done really well to recover as well. Tommy O'Brien was brilliant in the summer as well. So hugely exciting calls. We touched on this in our video earlier the week. I'm fascinated to see how Tommy O'Brien fits into Andy Farrell's attacking system. I know he played in the summer. Andy Farrell obviously wasn't there. He was away on the Lions, but I think his speed and agility, his aerial work out wide, can be a real point of difference to Ireland, because as brilliant as Matt Hansen is, and look, there's no doubt that he'll come back when he's fit, but Tommy O'Brien has a real chance to lay down a marker here in a different type of profile in a backline that at times has lacked a little bit of out-and-out gas. He's 27 years old. He's had a really tough time with injury. I think a lot of people think he's only breaking onto the scene as a 21, 22-year-old, but a bit like Baird, this is a big opportunity to lay down a marker that, this jersey is going to be mine for the next few weeks.
Well, speaking of which, Jack Crowley, he's been a big talking point really all season, the way he's played since he came into the Munster jersey over in Clonettley off the bench. We've heard about his pre-season. We've heard about the kind of work that he's put in to be ready. it does feel like he kind of went away last summer and channeled a lot of his frustration that he would have had after this game last year when he lost his Ireland place to Sam Prendergast. Well, first Kieran Foley and then Sam Prendergast. How do you view now his position? You spoke to him during the week for a piece that's going out in the Irish Independent tomorrow. How do you view this as an opportunity, and how ready do you feel he is to kind of go to the next level and kind of not just reproduce what he did in 2024 when he led Ireland to a Six Nations, but even go on to a bigger level than that?
Well, you were in the interview as well. Like, he certainly exuded confidence, didn't he? And I thought he spoke really well. There's definitely a perception out there, particularly amongst Munster supporters, that Jack Crowley was really hard done by. But I asked him that outright, and he said that he didn't feel like he was hard done by. He said that he didn't feel like he was playing well enough. So I thought that was quite a mature response. He obviously gave a little bit of insight into what he was doing with Munster with Brett Gordon, was it, the rehab coach. And he said, like, it wasn't anything flash. It was just working on becoming stronger, becoming more physical. And I think we've seen that, particularly in the Leinster game when he made 18 tackles. His defence has become a real point of difference ever since he played for Con in 2019. And a particular centre who I won't mention because he didn't want to mention him either, wanted to move him off defending the 10 channel from a scrum close to their own line, and he took offence to that, and ever since then he's wanted to make his defence a point of difference. So we saw that in the Munster game. Only 3 players made more tackles, 3 forwards, than Jack Crowley, but obviously that's only part of it. You want to see him running the game plan with the confidence that he's been exuding for Munster, I would say, across the course of the start of the season. He looks fresh, he looks hungry. He said that the last year hasn't knocked him, but I don't know how it couldn't knock you. You know, like, he was the man who led Ireland to the Six Nations last year, the first time since Johnny Sexton had retired. Did really well. Like, he played exceptionally well in Marseille, in particular on the opening night. And obviously it didn't go all his own way, but he reckons that it's made him stronger, that it's made him actually focus on the areas of the game that were the reasons he lost his place in the first place to Sam Prendergast. So, a bit like Tommy O'Brien, a bit like Ryan Baird, a big performance against the All Blacks and a huge stage like this on Saturday will really shake it up, because, like, there's no doubt that Sam Prendergast is going to come back again. You know, like, this battle is far from over, I would think.
Yeah, it was interesting talking to Danny Farrell. He really doesn't want to get into the nitty gritty of why he's picking one over the other, and he praised Crowley's form, but he was very unwilling to kind of get into whether this is a long-term call, whether this is just for this week, what Crowley had done. He really tries to steer it away and make it more about the group. But what he did give was a real sense of confidence about where he feels Ireland are, which I guess he has to do, because, you know, everyone could see that they've played very few games. That, I think there's 5 or 6 of the starting team, if not more, who've only played once this season. One hasn't played at all. Caelan Doris hasn't played at all either, coming off the bench. Paddy McCarthy's only played 10 senior games in his entire career. So there is definitely a worry that there's an undercookedness to this Ireland team going out here. But Farrell, it was as relaxed and as confident I've seen him in his press dealings for a long, long time. He's very happy to be back in the Ireland job. He's very comfortable being back in the Ireland job. I think he's excited about the window, the fact that they are playing 3 huge games, plus like a tricky enough one against Japan next week, where they'll have to rotate heavily from the team that plays this weekend. But it was one of those days where you kind of it reminds you of what Farrell being back will bring to the party as well. The fact that he's been back for this entire window, taking training. I think the fact that they've come here, they're away from Dublin, it's just that different picture. They were all at the Bulls game last night. Dan Sheehan was presented with a Bulls jersey courtside. That kind of, they want to embrace that without it being a distraction. They're hoping that all of those things combine into a performance, and he's kind of challenging them to not use the lack of preparedness and game time as an excuse, that their training is good enough, that they have to find a way. Look, this is the reality for Irish teams in the next couple of years. You're not going to have many games coming into the November window. They've got to figure out a way of doing it. You've been to the All Blacks camp to hear from Scott Robertson. How would you gauge their move? Because they're in a different place. They played loads of games this season. They haven't gone, they only lost the Rugby Championship on points difference, but there's a move with them that they're up and down, that they obviously were rocked by that huge defeat to South Africa a couple of weeks ago, but they did retain the Bledisloe Cup. How would you kind of assess where they're at coming into this game?
It's hard to get a read, because I don't know, do you agree, but Scott Robertson isn't the best communicator, and he seemed a little quite nervous, I would say, today, but I don't know how much to read into that, because I don't think standing in front of him, there was a lot of journalists there. I know you were there on Monday as well, but the Kiwis have all rolled in. There was a big crowd there, and he just seemed edgy. I don't think he likes that kind of format, so I'd be kind of reluctant to read too much into that in terms of this is how the All Blacks are feeling, but they're fully aware of the pressure that they're under. I think the Kiwis have been unconvinced yet that Scott Robertson is the man to lead them forward. He's pricked a pretty settled team. You mentioned the changes there that he made at the top. He's kept Wallace Satiti on the bench. We talked about Ireland's bench and the punch that they're going to have coming off the bench. Here's a guy,
huge front row bench as well.
Yeah, big front row bench. Yeah, and he spoke about that at the press conference, that we want to make sure that we're finishing well, and he did acknowledge that Ireland's bench is very strong as well. But I looked through the team and the threats are obvious. I mean, Will Jordan at fullback. I think Caleb Clark's a brilliant player as well. Like, they're littered with threats in the back three. Leroy Carter going up against James Lowe. If that's a one-on-one race, Lowe could be in a bit of trouble. But equally, I think Lowe's experience. Leroy Carter's only transferred over from sevens. So it's the pace of that All Blacks back three. I mean, we're always expecting Will Jordan to pull out something.
He scored a try every time he's played against Ireland.
I mean, I still have nightmares about the try that he scored in the 23 World Cup. One of the most beautifully executed set-piece moves with himself and Richie Mwanga. You look at Artie Surveya up front. I think Scott Barrett's a brilliant player. Geordie Barrett, he was asked again, Scott Robertson, about the insight that Geordie Barrett's going to bring, and he said, yeah, it's been absolutely invaluable this week. I suppose the one name who Leinster supporters in particular will be disappointed not seeing the 23 is Rico Ioane.
Yeah.
Now, we kind of flagged this earlier in the week. It's not a great shock, but it's not a great look for a man who Leinster are about to spend a lot of cash on to bring in after the November window. Scott Robertson seems to have kind of moved away from the idea of him being a 13. Leroy Carter is after coming in from sevens, and he's in a very tricky position in his career. Scott Robertson was asked about it today. What does Rico Ioane need to do here to get back in? Now, his answer wasn't great, to be honest. It's something about he needs to turn up every day, but it didn't seem he was not too blustered about him. You know what I mean? He seems to have really fallen out of favour. Obviously, he went back and played NPC, and I don't think Leinster will be panicking just yet. But you compare it to this time last year when they were bringing in Geordie Barrett, a bona fide superstar. And I know at his best Rico Ioane is, but it looks like he's going to be joining Leinster off the back. He might play in one of the other games that they have in Europe, but it's not a great sign, is it, if you're Leinster?
No, I guess he'll be fresh. That's the upside. The All Blacks have been doing loads of commercial work here this week, in contrast to Ireland, who are doing some, but not really involving the squad. It was a big distraction for them in 2016, but it's come up in nearly all of their media engagements. They're here to sell their brand globally, and there's a huge pressure on Robertson. I was writing about it this morning. If you're selling the All Black brand as some sort of kind of invincible kind of team who win all the time, you've got to win. You've got to back that up with performances and results. And this year they've lost Argentina. They lost heavily to South Africa. I know they did beat South Africa in the other game they played against them. It hasn't been a disastrous season by any means, but they're held to such a high standard at home. And Robertson was the saviour. Even through the Ian Foster era, he was always there as an alternative candidate, the kind of cause celeb for so many Crusaders fans, for so many New Zealand fans. He was different. He brought a different kind of energy to it. The fact that he break dances after they win trophies, people loved the idea of him. But the reality of him in this job has been quite different. And I think he has the press, the additional press stuff that he has to do. He doesn't look really comfortable in it. Now, he's brilliant, apparently, behind the scenes at kind of building weeks, theming weeks, getting the players on site, building a brilliant environment. But he's lost 2 assistant coaches, as we touched on this week as well. So he's in a bit of a tricky spot. He wasn't in a great spot coming to Dublin last year, and they put together one of the most complete performances of his tenure. And they struggled with their bench. That's a big talking point in New Zealand, that their last half an hour of games have been when they've been losing games, and the Box scored heavily against them. But they're in a tricky spot coming into this game.
They're making a huge deal about this being a Grand Slam tour before they've even played a game. Scott Robertson was mentioning it there again today. So they're almost kind of hostage to fortune a little bit, because obviously if they lose this weekend, there is no Grand Slam. And funny you should mention that, because he does this little speech, as you know, at the start of a press conference before he takes any questions. And one of the first things he said was that, we came here a bit early to work with our sponsors. So he said it again. It's really on their mind. And I'm sure there's reasons for that the players are probably well looked after, I'd imagine, for getting involved in stuff like that, because we'd Simon Parker the other day saying, we want to make our sponsors proud. It's nauseating stuff, if you ask me. I know in 2016 there was sort of a theory that maybe the All Blacks took their eye off the ball by doing so many of these engagements. And certainly, having been here this week, there's an element of that as well, isn't there? Yeah,
but I do think you have to be realistic about it. And I think Ireland possibly should be doing a little bit more to sell their brand and get more money in, because like we're both isolated nations in terms of, like, sorry, not isolated, but small nations with limited population space. Kevin Potts has been talking today in the Telegraph about the fact that they want to play more games over here. That's clearly a strategic goal, and people don't like talking about it, but like they need to build relationships with all these brands and make the most of these opportunities. And that is one of the major reasons we're in Chicago this week, is for these two unions to make money, and I believe they will make an awful lot of money at Soldier Field. So yeah, it's usually an unspoken reality, but the All Blacks are willing to take it on the head. But I think when it comes down to it on Saturday, we won't be worrying too much about how much money is made. It's all about the bragging rights. We'll return to do a video from Soldier Field tomorrow ahead of the game with the captain's runs. But for now, it's goodbye from us. We'll see you tomorrow.